Welcome back for another episode of the Ross Bolen podcast. I am Ross Bolen, here as always with your co-host Jared Borislow, also known as the wise and powerful J-Bone.
J-Bone.
Jared, recently I was devastated to learn that there is a horrifying illegal succulent war taking place in Africa. As if we didn't have enough problems here in America. Here's another one. That's a joke, by the way. We do jokes here. Sometimes we do jokes about serious topics in an effort to lessen the suffering of life. I am not trying to get on Twitter later and have some doofus telling me I'm insensitive to Africa. This is called spreading awareness with humor. Healing the world with comedy. Shouts to Bo Burnham.
Is this like a blood diamond situation but with succulents?
Back to our story, humorless swine. If you're laughing, I'm not talking to you. You're cool. So from the Telegraph, a houseplant craze on social media and Asian collectors are driving a devastating wave of illegal succulent poaching across Africa, threatening rare plant species with extinction in the wild. Essentially, Jared, the humans got so bored in 2020 and we're all stuck in their houses, so we all got hooked on houseplants. So all of you who thought you were the only one who was like, you know what I'll do? Get a bunch of plants and just make the best of this. You weren't. There were tons of you.
Yeah, I think
so many that illegal activity has sprung up.
Succulents are truly a tribute to generally American laziness because they're the one plant you need to water them like once a year. Like, oh, I want to have something green in my house, but like I'm not willing to put any effort whatsoever towards keeping it alive.
Yeah, isn't that the main reason people buy them?
Nobody would
They're
buy
super
succulents
easy.
More than like a fern or like a whatever.
I
other
mean,
house
don't get me
plant.
wrong, they're good looking too. They're cool looking. But I feel like the main reason they're as popular as they are is the low maintenance.
And also they can be used as a weapon in case of an intruder.
Right.
You grab the succulent, put the pot in your palm and go, wah, and jam it in the intruder's eyes.
Yeah, usually, almost always, the succulent potting in and of itself is dangerous, right? Botanists, back to our story, botanists claim South Africans and Kenyans are being exploited by foreign criminals to dig up hundreds of rare African species to supply voracious Asian, European, and North American demand. Quote, the Asian market for these plants is insatiable. It is gigantic, end quote. That's what she said Dr. Cornelia Clack from the Department of Biological Sciences at the University of Cape Town, South Africa.
Dr. Cornelia Clack said that's what she said after saying that?
No. That part was me. Back to quotes. There is a collecting mania. People want these wild plants which can grow for up to 100 years. They are being taken out by local people, some of whom have lost jobs throughout lockdown. So people lost their jobs. Now they're out pirating plants. The succulent market overseas.
Now, we're a pirate podcast. Are we a plant pirate podcast or no?
No, we don't support the pirating of plants, Jared. Especially not succulents, as it is a problem now.
What do we only support the pirating of what? Or pirating of gold? Is that it? Like
Booty. Exclusively. Experts said that the plant smugglers, primarily from China and South Korea, scout out rare plant locations on the continent before paying locals low wages to dig them up and then shipping them to Asia. Often the plants are fed into the international market through major hubs such as Amsterdam, they said. Demand for succulents boomed during 2020 as hundreds of millions of people worldwide were stuck at home. Some UK plant retailers have seen as much as a 500% increase in sales since the start of the pandemic. Again, there were these random markets that boomed, right? Succulents, plants, one of the ones we didn't think of. There are tens of millions of results of Instagram tagged with hashtags like hashtag plants of Instagram, hashtag succulents, hashtag plants make people happy. I've had just about enough of this crap, Jared. I can't buy ammunition to kill my ops because of the international ammo shortage. I can't buy kettlebells to build my arm guns because of the international workout equipment shortage. And now I can't even grow my goddamn succulent collection because there's an international houseplant shortage resulting in a war over plants you don't really have to take care of for them to survive.
You and I just need to start only liking things that are in massive, massive oversupply, right? Like what would that be? Like CO2? Like you and I just started loving CO2. There's a lot of that.
That's what we're fans of now? We're a CO2 podcast now.
Yeah. So in order to get our CO2 fix, I'm just going to stand in front of you, breathe into your nose, and then you're going to exhale into my nose.
It really is amazing to me, though. Like, humans are so lazy. Like, like you go to the plant store and you're like, I want a succulent. And they're like, oh, well, we're out. And somehow this ends up driving eventually an illegal trade.
Yeah.
Like, oh, fuck. Well, I'm not going to buy another plant.
Yeah, what's kind of awkward too is like, so I went and bought a succulent for my girlfriend one time, and I walked in, and I like to abbreviate words, right? So I was like, hey,
Reeves?
yeah, like I was like, hey, where can I suck you?
Wow.
And they were not having that.
How would this sentence start with can I? Can I succulent?
Yeah, it's a verb, to succulent.
Come on.
I would like to succulent. Can I suck you?
To shop for a succulent is not the word succulent. That's not a verb. You can. It's not.
I would like to succulent. I would like to suck you. And I got kicked out of the store, which I will say helped prevent more of a shortage, because if I had bought one, there would be less supply.
When I go to the store and they say, "Oh, sorry, we are out of succulents," then I pick like some other shitty plant, go the fuck home and cry, and use my tears as lubricant. People are so shitty, so unfathomably stupid, that we are now starting wars over houseplants. Houseplants.
If there was a dude named Lance, do you think people say like, hey, I want a succulents?
What?
I'm just stuck on this.
God, Jared?
I'm just stuck on this one.
Succulent wordplay is not your forte.
Ooh, that was pretty good.
But Jared, it is summertime. It's hot as hell outside. Balls, some might say. Hot as hell balls. And your hell balls need a safe space to spend these scorching months. Enter our sponsor, Birddogs, making the most comfortable shorts in the world, which you can go swimming in or climb a tree or play cricket. They also make pants for golf, for life, for love, for swimming. If you want to be part of the revolution, like Jared and I were swimming in pants all summer 2021. Isn't it the last month, technically, of summer? August, I think? Isn't this the end?
Probably.
I feel like it's sort of close to the end, so it's time to take advantage. Birddogs, incredibly comfortable shorts with built-in underwear. Even their pants have the underwear built in, but nobody's going to know because they look so nice. You're just cheating the system, winning at life, and frankly, they make the pants without the built-in underwear if you just want to be incredibly comfortable and have good-looking pants but are too afraid to break the wheel.
Yeah.
What's more, Jared, do you remember back in childhood when you'd buy a cereal box or perhaps go to McDonald's and get a toy with your meal, with your purchase?
Yes.
Guess what? Birddogs does that. They used to give away a weapon when you use the code RBP on birddogs.com. You would get a set of nunchucks with your order. You can see a pair of them behind me. Now it's a free whistling football. You go to birddogs.com. You fill up your cart with all the shorts with the built-in underwear, without the built-in underwear, the pants with or without. I recommend it though. It's incredibly comfortable. One less thing to take off and do laundry with. Boxers pile up. You got 15 pairs of boxers you're doing in your laundry now. No. Free whistling football with all that when you use the code RBP when you check out. Go to Birddogs, use the code RBP, support the podcast, get yourself some of the most comfortable shorts in the world, and pants. The pants are great.
I love to swim in pants. The pants with the built-in liner.
Fall's coming. Golf season. Mm-hmm. That's what they call it. You can golf in your Birddogs pants.
If you hit a golf ball into a lake and you're wearing your swim pants, you can swim right in, as long as there's no alligators, of course.
Yep, and Birddogs dry faster than a swimsuit. Birddogs.com, code RBP, free whistling football. It's like a Nerf, but it's a Birddogs football. Code RBP, birddogs.com.
Grab your light, this is Stop the Wikipedia when you're high.
Stop the Wikipedia when you're high.
Shouts to my boy English Tom for the tip today. For our Stuff to Wikipedia when you're high, it's College Alpin International. Hey, Jared, how do you say college if there's a thing over the E? Is it collège?
Collège.
Collège Alpin International Beau Soleil. Beau Soleil, I'll say it like a classless American piece of shit the rest of the segment, okay? Beau Soleil has been listed by the Daily Telegraph as one of the most exclusive schools in the world, all right? It costs north of like $100,000 a year to go to this thing. I don't even know the...
Is this like a high school? Elementary school? What is this?
It's 11 to 18 years old.
Okay.
Okay? Recently considered to be the most expensive school in the world. It was founded in 1910, one of the oldest private boarding schools in Switzerland. It's located 4,430 feet above sea level on the Swiss Alps. The college provides a full boarding education for students from over 60 different nationalities, aged 11 to 18 years old. Owned by the DeMeyer family until 2010, the school then passed into the Nord Anglia Education family of schools. Nord Anglia Education is responsible for 61 international schools located across 28 countries with a total of more than 61,000 students. Students are allowed to go to town on the weekends or can sign up to go to other places. Some Saturdays are reserved for academics and challenges. During the year, they have 7 challenges, such as a 10-kilometer run in the mountains and ski races. Slightly different than my school, where the challenge was to make it safely from one end of the hallway to the other.
Or you would do ski races in the bathroom where dudes are just doing blow off the toilet, right?
Yeah. They have 2 uniforms, one for Monday that is fancy attire, while a more casual set of uniform is used for Tuesday to Friday. Why is Monday fancy day?
Monday's always fancy boy day. That's
Is
why
it?
I'm wearing my Chili's shirt.
You always drip on Monday?
I always drip on Monday. So I'm not wearing shoes.
After class, students are permitted to wear their own clothes. Every year, some students climb Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa.
I'll say this. No offense to people who have climbed and summited Mount Kilimanjaro. I believe Mount Kilimanjaro to be the biggest loser of the 7 peaks. It is the easiest one to summit. In my professional amateur opinion,
Wow, okay.
it is supposed to be the easiest one to summit. It's still a hard trek, don't get me wrong. But, like, you don't need to train for a year to do Kilimanjaro. I think you could train for, like, a few months.
This is going to end with you and me having to do Kilimanjaro. You know that, right?
Yes.
Like, this is, like, fast forward 7 years to you and me miserably hiking up Kilimanjaro.
And now let's see this, Ross. Can you name the biggest peak on each of the continents?
No.
Okay, I'll do that right now. Ready? Mount McKinley, a.k.a. Denali in North America. Mount Aconcagua in South America. Mount Kilimanjaro. I want to say Europe is Mount Etna. Obviously, Mount Everest. And then Ayers Rock in Australia. And then whatever the hell Antarctica. I don't know. Ice Glacier McGee? I don't know what the fuck Antarctica is.
How do you come that close and close out with Ice Glacier McGee? How are you that confident going in, and then you close out with Ice Glacier McGee?
Oh,
I don't think you had it right before that, even though. But I think
I did.
I just
pretty close.
I'm at a loss. Notable alumnus of the school include Tina Cooper, English pediatrician. Sir Peter O'Sullivan, an Irish-British horse racing commentator and journalist. Charlotte Gainsbourg, English-French actress and singer-songwriter. I believe she was the star of Nymphomaniac, the film Nymphomaniac, for those of you who watched that. I know Jared did. Jean-Daniel Datweiler, Swiss Olympic and World Cup alpine skier, also an alumna. And alumni? Princess Mary or Marie of Denmark. There's a bunch of princes and princesses, and nobody cares.
I don't care about any of these famous alumnus.
They don't. The point is, they don't
alumni.
have any good alumni
No.
at all.
They're probably just all rich people who, like,
Old money is so boring.
it is. Because, like, okay, there's, like, a high school near me that there's a rumor that Jeffrey from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air went there.
If you have old money, it just means that at whatever point, whoever was cool enough to make money in your family wasn't cool enough to blow it.
Yes. That's lame. Like,
I saved generational wealth.
yeah, we need, like, a
Great.
Kendall Roy who just,
Great.
like, breaking stuff.
Exactly. Perfect example. Succession on HBO. Generational wealth is dangerous. You're just rolling the dice. Think about it conceptually. You're coming up, you're creating generational wealth. What are you doing? What you're doing is giving an insane amount of power to future generations that you don't even fucking know these people yet. Maybe they haven't even been born yet. You don't know who they're going to become.
Just spend the money
You're
yourself.
just rolling the dice for the rest of us, though, not even just for you. And it's selfish. Spend that money because you can't take it with you when you die. And your grandkids might be shitty. Put that on a t-shirt. Spend that money because you can't take it with you when you die, and your grandkids might be shitty.
Spend that money on patreon.com/Ross Bolen Podcast, where you can subscribe to us for more bonus content.
As much money as you want. You can throw it down right there. If you've got a trust fund waiting for you, and you've got access to part of it right now, that thing is a burden, and you need to unload it. We will take it. Go to patreon.com/Ross Bolen Podcast. It doesn't matter which tier you're in. That's a minimum pledge. You can put in however much you want. Give us $50K a month. We will spend it responsibly. You don't know what to do with that money. And your grandpa fucked up by giving it to you. Give it back to us. I don't know how that's giving it back, but
To the
give
people,
it to us.
To the people.
Yeah, we'll represent the people. We stand as tribute. Anyway, that's enough about this. It's one of the most exclusive schools in the world. You get to travel to insane like our trip for high school was middle school rather, 8th grade trip was to Enchanted Rock in Texas. So
Yeah.
we climbed that thing, Jared. I'll tell you what, we got to the peak. It's like 50 feet tall. It's no Kilimanjaro.
Or Mount Glacier McGee.
Or Mount Glacier McGee. But we learned something today about one of the most exclusive schools in the world.
Yes.
On Wikipedia. Good stuff. Bruce and Bella in the studio with us today, as always, my 2 toy Australian shepherds. I love them like family. I want them taken care of, which is why I love our sponsor, Jinx, the official food and treat provider of all Bolen media dogs, including Jared's awesome dog, Millie. This is simple. Listen up. Our modern dogs do more sleeping and lounging than they do hunting or working, and to keep our pups happy and healthy, most modern kibble falls short on the nutrition dogs need. Real quality ingredients without the added fillers. Dog parents meet Jinx, the internet's fastest growing dog wellness brand, your dog's new favorite kibble, treats, and dental chews, with recipes proven to support digestion, immunity, and heart health. Designed by dog parents, formulated by pet nutritionists, approved by veterinarians, and loved by dogs. Jared, it's Jinx. Millie's digging it. Bruce and Bella love it. At this point, we've got 4 different types of dogs eating it, and Jinx was designed with picky eaters in mind. If it's not your dog's new favorite food, the Jinx team will make it right with their 100% money-back guarantee. Again, 2 toy Aussies, a giant 90-pound Doberman, Cavalier Pomeranian, and a Aussie Doodle, all loving Jinx at Bolen Media. And for listening to our show, you try Jinx and get 40% off your first subscription order at thinkjinx.com/RBP. Your dog deserves a cleaner kibble designed for modern doghood that they actually want to eat, and you can actually feel good about giving them. Your dog will love it or your money back. What are you waiting for? Get 40% off at thinkjinx.com/RBP. That's THINKJINX, .com/RBP to support our podcast and your fur family at the same time. Jared, it's Call Your Grandparents Month.
It is.
It's August 9th now, Monday. And I still feel like, as I said on Patreon this past Friday, for all of you supporting the pod, you're hearing me say this for the second time, I feel like this is much earlier than I figured it out last year, mid-pandemic, that it was Call Your Grandparents Month. And as I said, and admitted on Patreon, this is the worst I've been about calling my grandma since the spawn of Call Your Grandparents Month, back at the first year of RBP's existence in like 2016 or 17 or whenever it was. And so I finally called my grandma over the weekend and caught up with her. And it was awesome. And I feel way less shitty now as a person and a grandson. So, for those of you who are new here or may be new to the show, every August we have an initiative. It's Call Your Grandparents Month, the whole month of August, where we try to remind people through social media and the podcast how important it is to stay in touch with and call your grandparents. It was particularly important all of 2020. It stays that important now in 2021, as we've seen the pandemic is it's a 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, 4 steps forward, fall over, shit yourself, roll backward 20 yards situation. So it's important still this year. Our grandparents are important for a lot of reasons. And as I said on Patreon last week, it's not necessarily that you need to listen to every word your grandparents say and then apply it, right? Your grandparents lived, 60, 70 years ago, really. That's when they were at the point you are now. And you can't make decisions in this modern world based on where they were at pre-technology and what was going on, most recent civil rights wave. Like, just a lot was different when your grandparents were young. And depending on where they're from or what country they're from, the world has been a mess my whole life, but it was a mess their whole life too. And their messy version of it is a lot different than ours. And there's just certain things you have to leave behind, like racism or homophobia. And that shit is definitely generational and gets passed down like that. So it's just an important thing. If you're talking to your grandma and she says some racist shit, it's not okay, but just fucking ignore that part. You don't have to argue with her. She's like 98. What are you going to do?
You shouldn't argue with your grandparents.
It probably isn't worth it.
Yeah.
But just remember, I don't have to apply that part, right?
Mm-hmm.
But your grandparents are a wealth of knowledge, Jared, because they've lived a long-ass life and seen all kinds of shit, right? I feel like history is harder for me to appreciate than it has ever been at any point in my life right now, because there's so much going on in the present that I can't really reflect back on things like World War II or Vietnam or like great conflicts and strifes that humanity has overcome long before my lifetime, right? Your grandparents help you stay connected to that. The idea that there was something before you and there will be something long after you're gone. So call your grandparents month all August long. We implore you to call your grandparents. If you don't have grandparents, that's okay. You can call somebody else's grandparents or call a random nursing home and ask to speak to an old person. I promise you, they don't really know who they're talking to half the time anyway. They don't care. They just want somebody to talk to. They're bored. Most of them can't even go out. It's not safe out there for the olds, you see. So they're stuck in their homes. Give them a ring. Call your aunt, your uncle, somebody that's older is the point, right?
What's the minimum age here? 55? Retirement age?
60.
60?
Let's say 60. 60 years old. Yeah. Retirement age isn't 55 anymore, is it?
I don't know.
I feel like that's unrealistic.
I think it's like a pension thing, maybe.
Now 55 is when we're going to go to the salt mines at 55.
The colonies?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Call your grandparents, Jared. Any further thoughts?
You should call your grandparents.
You should call them.
That's my final thought on the. You have a month to do it, but I would do it now, because then if you can do it now, you can get a bunch of calls in during this month.
Do it now. Get to the chopper. Call your grandparents. The chopper is where the phone is.
Like, what if you just talk to your grandma or grandpa like once a week?
The idea is to make it a habit, right?
Yeah.
That's the idea, is to kind of get it in, it's not one conversation is not going to get you the 70 years of knowledge that you could possibly draw from this human being.
One thing I love about talking to my bubby is she's clearly had.
name, Bubby.
Well, it's a Jewish thing,
No, I don't know.
Oh, that's a Jewish thing, yeah.
I'm uncultured swine.
It's funny. Her name is Roberta.
A regular Gentile over here, Jared.
Her name is Roberta, so people call her Bobby, but like she's Bubby, so she's Bubby. Bobby
the Bubby.
Well, she's so good at like clearly like talking to her grandchildren or maybe just like her relatives in general. Every time I talk to her, great talk, and like 15 minutes in, she's like, "All right, well, that's it." Like I'm like,
damn,
perfect.
I love that.
I know, it's amazing. I'm like, you know what? I was good too.
You know what? I'm gonna go play. What do old people play?
She plays golf. She plays cards.
What's that card game they play? Bridge. I'm gonna go play bridge with the girls, Jared. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, she's like
Bubby out.
It's like the second she can tell that the conversation has gotten to a point where like one of us is about to have to make up some topic to talk about, she just nips it in the bud and she's like, "All right, later." I'm like, "Okay, perfect."
Damn.
That was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very good.
My grandma always tells me, she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm rambling. I'm taking up all your time." And I'm like, I what? I called you, first of all. Second of all, no, I definitely don't have anything better to do. I assure you. But my grandma's in that phase of her life where, like, every time I talk to her now, she wants to reflect, right? That's all. She wants to reflect pretty much the whole phone call, which is kind of weird for me because I know why she's doing it. It's because she's old as shit and she knows she's gonna, eventually hit the end of the road here, and that it can be a little sad. But you got to remember, like, think about, all right. So me, at 34 years old, where I already sometimes argue that, like, when people say life is short, I'm like, is it? But at 34, like, if I found out, you've got 5 years left, let's say if somebody told me that, or you've got 10 years left, shit, it would take me probably that whole 10 of reflection to digest the 34 I've done. So imagine being 92, right? Think about how much you have to like process from life. And really that's kind of a lot of what you have left to do is to sit back and appreciate, hopefully, that's the goal, right? To get to that place where when you're old, you can appreciate what occurred and how you handled it.
Yeah.
Hopefully, most importantly.
I'll say this. My favorite ever cold open in the history of any podcast you've ever done was the original, I believe, Call Your Grandparents month.
Yeah.
The episode cold opened with you calling your grandma.
I called my grandma, yeah.
Yeah, that was, what episode is that? You can probably find that.
Yeah, you could Google it, I bet. The Ross Bolen podcast, Call Your Grandparents month.
Very good way.
Also, I interviewed her for Patreon. If you want to go listen to a full hour, I think, or 45 minutes or something like that with my grandma Bolen. It's on patreon.com/Ross Bolen podcast. You just have to scroll back through. I interviewed her for like the second Call Your Grandparents month, I think. Yeah, she's awesome, man. She just like, it's just one of those things where every time I talk to her, I'll pick up a little bit more, or she'll remind me of something that now as an older dude hits me differently than it did when I was younger. Anyway, call your grandparents. Don't forget, all month long. I promise we won't forget to remind you. And now it's time for another semi-serious segment very quickly. The RBP Impact Initiative is something that we've kind of had ongoing for a couple years now, and it's where people from the show send us a short story or anecdote about what the podcast means to them. And we had people doing this at one point because what I found is we had a lot of really cool stories coming in from listeners and things that I thought were impactful to motivate people to share the show with others, because it really can help other people. And the kind of proof is in the pudding when I read you these. So I hope it's motivating for you to go share the show with others this time as well.
Yeah,
I've got a few to share with you today.
What I think is crazy about just in general the RBP Impact Initiative is like, people think like, oh yeah, like, yeah, I listen to a guy, him and his buddy do this podcast. It's like, you've been doing this podcast for how long now?
I don't know, a few years.
Like a few years, twice a week, 3 a week. It's like, this is essentially, your life's work, right? So it's cool to see the impact it has on other people, just because I've known you for fucking ever.
Yeah, you've also got to see it go from like this, like when our jobs were just pure entertainment. There was no like substance to it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not like this.
No, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, so it was like to be able to take that and transform it into something that could really matter was cool, and that was sort of the motivating factor for me with Bolen Media as a company. If RBP didn't have that built into it from the get-go, when our old company was falling apart, I don't even know that I would have been motivated to make my own thing, because that was sort of what showed me, like, you can make a difference and do entertainment and be funny and talk about dumb shit that doesn't matter at all and talk about the stuff that matters more than anything in the world, and it can all be the same show.
Yeah, entertain and inspire, which is the initial Bolen Media motto that you recently changed to fuck their wives, drink their blood.
Fuck their wives, drink their blood, Bolen Media. That's also a t-shirt that we're making. Until Bo sends us the DMCA.
Well, he has to come on the pod first, so.
He does. $10,000 to the charity of his choice. If anybody has a contact, holler at him. So I've got a few RBP Impact initiatives that I received more recently. And I was like, you know what? I've got a few good ones I want to share one. So here's one from K-Dog. The names I've got to change to make anonymous, right? K-Dog from Tomball, actually. I'm a new middle-aged listener and wanted to share how I got tuned in and what I like about the show. Last week, my 19-year-old son, Noah, and I took a road trip to South Padre and a couple other cities over 7 days. We had a great time parasailing, caving, and tubing down the rivers. It was a great time for my son and I to build memories. I loved spending time with my kids. I love spending time with them. Since he drove, he got control of the radio during our 20-plus hours in the SUV. I suppose he was following his RBP legal obligation. He jumped around episodes from getting caught up. He's on RBP 115 or so, which is such a crazy concept to me. To current day shows. I've enjoyed all the episodes and continue to listen after our trip. I find your show interesting due to your life insights, witty humor, and learn something new. Parentheses, weed cough, Twitch, gaming, rap, general debauchery, and other current day shit old boomers are out of touch on, in parentheses. Although I don't have any issues, yes, you do. I find your anxiety and mental health experiences and perspectives helpful should my children and other kin have issues. Plus, I'm a Bobcat, class of 96, and have worn my big-ass Southwest Texas ring every day since I got it as a junior. I guess a little Aggie envy. Her words, not mine. Gang, 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 peace be with you, and also with you. And go Cats, keep up the hard life fight. You are rocking it out. Best. K-Dog. Thank you, K-Dog. Appreciate that. This one was cool to me because this is not the first time. It's probably happened 20 times now where I've heard from a parent that got sucked into the show by their kid listening to it. So if you're like 19 or 23 or whatever, and you're riding around with your parents and you're scared to put on a shit like RBP, you're like, I don't know, maybe they won't. No, man, put it on. Put it on. I translate to some old people. I freak some of them out. But I translate to some of them.
And now that we don't have just a straight mugshot, they're probably more likely.
Yeah, there's sunglasses, and look, you can't even tell it's a mugshot. You don't know what that is. Tell them it's
just a deep V. It's a very deep V.
Tell them that's just a picture of the host when he was a kid. That's all you got to say. The logo.
He's reformed.
Mm-hmm. All right, here's another one from B-Man. I just wanted to reach out and thank you for all you're doing with the pod. I've struggled with depression for a long, long time, and it's been really bad lately. I had to go to a hospital recently for suicidal ideation. One of the big reasons I'm still on this earth today is because of you and the pod and the gang and the support I get from y'all. Every time I see you tweet out a "You Are Not Alone," it gives me a little boost and the strength to face down another day knowing that I am truly not alone. I know your job is probably thankless at times, and I just wanted to give thanks to you because I am truly so thankful. Keep on keeping on, and just know you've got a lot of people rooting for you too. Much love. First of all, very much not thankless. I get a lot of thanks with a stupid degree of regularity. It's the opposite of thankless because we have a really cool listenership, frankly, like a very communicative and nice, kind listenership that hits me up very frequently. If not partially because they're worried about me when they see me acting like an ass on social media, but but still, it means a lot. So it's not thankless at all. And again, this is another message I receive with a pretty high degree of frequency. And it used to be something that kind of freaked me out when I would receive a message from a listener that was having issues with suicidal ideations. Frankly, I had never had issues with suicidal ideations, so it wasn't something that I could even really wrap my head around. And then I had to deal with some of that going through the weaning off process of my SSRI that I've been coming off of. And now I really, really empathize with it. So when I get these, it means a lot to me. And there are things like mostly music that I could turn to when I felt shitty or when my mind went places I didn't want it to. And everybody needs to have that just in case, right? So for the show to be that for some people, for me, is the highest form of motivation to do the show and to make it good every week and make sure that Jared and I have funny or insightful topics or shit that we just think will be generally entertaining for y'all and is why we put so much effort into what we do. So thank you for sharing, B-Man. And again, if you listen to the show a long time, maybe you're like the parent from our first RBP Impact Initiative today, and you've never had any real mental health struggles. It's a reason, and you've never really felt like, whoa, I need to go share the show. Well, this is why. This is why I ask you to share the show, and this is why I bug you so much about it. So this week, share the show with some folks. One more, Jared. From Anonymous. I found the podcast when I was in a good place. I was recently engaged and happy as I've ever been. My fiance called off my engagement. I took it incredibly hard. This probably sounds like bullshit, but some nights I couldn't go to sleep without the podcast on because it was my first time living alone in a while. After a long road, I've lost a bunch of weight in a healthy way. I'm completely sober and have returned to therapy. I got involved with the Discord and have truly found a community there that has supported me at times without even knowing. I'm not sure I would have made it through the last few months without RBP and the positive mental health message that you guys share. I feel so alone. You reminded me that I'm not, and for that, I'm eternally grateful. And the last and final reason I ask that you share the podcast and that the RBP Impact Initiative is so cool to me is because it serves as a reminder for our listeners and for me that we are not alone. And that is one of the biggest messages through the silly jokes and the serious segments and everything in between that I try to make sure gets through here with the Ross Bolen podcast is that you are not alone. And this life can feel at times really isolating. And I'm not in my lifetime, and there in the last 34, there hasn't been a more isolating period than this pandemic situation that we've all had to endure. No matter where you are, no matter what walk you're in, no matter what your job, very few people have remained not impacted by this. And that in and of itself is proof you are not alone. I told people at the beginning of the pandemic, I mean, I was in a really bad spot, personally. This former company Jared and I worked at had fallen apart. My marriage had fallen apart. And I was fucked up. I still am sometimes, don't get me wrong. But, like, I was fucked up and I felt by myself with it. And when the pandemic hit, it was almost, for me, it was kind of a relief at first. Because I was, and I mean this with all due respect to the amount of damage that is done and the death that has come as a result of the pandemic. Initially, though, I was like, I mean, I don't feel like alone in the shittiness anymore. Like the whole world is falling apart. And there was something reassuring about that. And it was that feeling of like not being alone in the suffering. But you never are. And it shouldn't take a pandemic to remind me of that. Really shouldn't take a podcast to remind you of that. But that's the spot we're in. So share the show. Tell people they can listen on Spotify. They can follow on Spotify. If they want to watch, they can watch on YouTube. Follow us on TikTok, on Twitter, on Instagram. Apple Podcasts, they can subscribe, And y'all make sure, if you never have, rate and review, give us 5 stars, write about the show, what you like about it. And keep the emails coming. If you ever want to send in your own RBP Impact Initiative, it's ross@rossbolenpodcast.com. Put RBP Impact Initiative in the subject line, and then tell me your story. If you want me to leave your name out, I always do. So that's all I have to say about that, J-Bone.
That was a good segment. I enjoyed it.
J-Bone. This
J-Bone.
episode of RBP is also brought to you by Talkspace, the easiest and most effective way for you to get positive growth going in your life today. When you're at a low point, you might feel alone, but over 50% of Americans struggle with their mental health. We talk to our friends, we talk to our family, we try to, when we're experiencing issues, share those with the people around us, but we don't always get the advice we need, and it can be hard to open up to those around us because people have their own problems to deal with, and sometimes it just feels easier to suppress our emotions and hide our feelings and let things build until we break. Don't do that. Therapy instead. Talkspace therapists give you the support you need to feel your best. They have thousands of licensed therapists trained in over 40 specialties, including anxiety, depression, relationships, and more. Your therapist can help you set and achieve your goals. You're going to be amazed at how much progress you make. Jared Therapy, Talk Therapy, something I've been doing for over a decade now. A full 10 years of experience with it. And it's the thing I credit with the vast majority of my personal growth and success. And I credit myself, obviously, for being willing to go do therapy and put in the work. And that's a big part of it, is you got to take that step and decide you're willing to put in the work. Talkspace is a place for you to do that. And it's a fraction of the cost of in-person therapy. You don't have to wait for an appointment. You can send unlimited messages to your therapist 24/7, and they'll engage with you daily, 5 days a week. You don't have to go to a waiting room. You don't have any in-person stuff to do. Start feeling better with a single message. Match with a therapist when you go to Talkspace.com and get $100 off your first month with the promo code RBP. Support the show. Use the code RBP. That's $100 off when you go use the code RBP at Talkspace.com.
That is a C note, Ross. $100.
A hundy. Benjamin Franklin. Jared, put him in your pocket.
Our greatest president.
Put him in your pocket.
That's a 3-year Letterman joke. That guy is unbelievable on Twitter.
Who?
3-year Letterman. You ever seen this guy?
Have you seen this? Have you heard about this? No, I do not.
He's
know who you're talking about.
He's the biggest troll that I think I've ever seen in my lifetime.
Tekashi 6ix9ine would beg to differ.
He's a social media troll. Essentially, what he does is anytime there's any big tweet by like a celebrity, if something goes viral, he somehow has notifications on, comments something that has a massive, massive historical factual error in it, and racks up like 500 different people correcting him.
Oh, good God.
And then he doubles down on every single one of those people. It's,
Okay.
and
that's how he grows the account?
It's a spectacle.
That's hellacious.
It's unbelievable.
That's hellacious. Don't go to there.
But one of his big things, and every time there's anything American, he's like, we need to remember our greatest president, Ben Franklin. And every single response is, he wasn't president. It's ridiculous.
Wait, Benjamin Franklin wasn't president? Back to you, Jared.
No.
So not everybody on a bill was president?
No. Especially not all the framers of the Declaration from the $2 bill.
Was Thomas Jefferson president?
Yeah, he was president.
But Ben Franklin wasn't?
No.
Did he invent electricity?
I think he discovered it.
Tight. That's fucking lit.
Yeah.
So don't go to Twitter and don't check out whatever that was. Instead, go to patreon.com/Ross Bolen podcast, where every Friday you get an ad-free edition of this podcast. And this most recent Friday, we made some big changes. There are a lot of you who call our hotline, 888-WR-BOLEN. Now, we tried to do a Patreon-only hotline that was exclusive to our patrons, but people just ended up calling 888-WR-BOLEN instead. Long story short, hotline calls don't necessarily fit into the everyday flow of our Monday and Wednesday show anymore, so we made the decision to move them exclusively to one place and one place only, and that is patreon.com/Ross Bolen podcast. We've had a lot of you ask for more hotline calls. You say you love the hotline calls. You want them so bad. You can't not have them. You need them. Well, now I'm telling you exactly where we're going to have more of them. Patreon.com/Ross Bolen podcast, where every Friday we do an ad-free episode of this show, a new, completely original edition of RBP right there exclusively on Patreon for those supporting this podcast with a minimum $5 pledge monthly to join the RBP gang, or a $10 minimum pledge to join the Enforcer tier, or the OG tier is a $100 minimum pledge. We appreciate all of you at every level.
A lot of people say that the Friday episode, because, you know, it's just us kind of riffing It's not ad based. It's just us being able to say
Sure.
whatever we want to say, and we can always say whatever we want to
We
say.
always say whatever we want to say.
But you know what I'm saying. It
No,
gets
I don't.
it gets unhinged. Okay.
This most recent Friday episode, last week's, was my favorite of the 3 that came out last week. And sometimes that happens. It's not like planned, but sometimes the third episode of the week, the Friday one, the little more unhinged or relaxed or whatever it may be, ends up being the one where I'm like, well, that was the best episode of the week. And instead of the massive pool of you who listen to the Monday, Wednesday show, it's a pretty exclusive audience there with just over 1,000 people on Patreon. We're trying to get it up to 2,000. We really, really, really need to grow it on there, grow our base on there so that we can continue to grow the show and the company. So if you want more RBP, if you love hotline calls and you're one of the people that's like, man, we only get a couple here or there, we're making a very conscious effort to do a ton more of them on Patreon. So the hotline itself, 888-WR-BOLEN, is almost exclusively going to be played on Patreon. If I find a special reason to play a call for some reason on Monday or Wednesday, then bless us all. But rest of the time, you want calls? One place to get them. Patreon.com/Ross Bolen podcast. Jared and I also did a segment last week explaining the Darwin Awards.
We have never had more people say this needs to be a permanent segment about like a random spur of the moment thing we didn't even plan.
Yeah, so the Darwin Awards came up out of nowhere. Jared and I were explaining them. We're not going to re-explain them now. You need to go to Patreon to hear the explanation. But long story short, it kind of turned into this mini segment where we were reading some different award recipients, and so many people hit us being like, y'all have to continue to do this. So we're going to make that a recurring segment on Patreon as well. We're always going to be adding new stuff. The feedback from y'all is extremely helpful. What you want is what we're going to give you, and that's where we're going to give it to you. So if you've always loved the podcast, maybe you've been here for a long time and never gotten the chance to get on Patreon, I would love it if you consider August for your first month. And remember, one of the huge selling points here is that when you sign up, you get to access our backlog. So you could listen to the Friday episode I've been talking about all day today. The most recent one. Get on there, sign up, listen to it right now. Access the columns from last month. Access the whole backlog. Get in there. Tons and tons and tons of hours worth of RBP that you've never heard. And again, patreon.com/Ross Bolen podcast, exclusive home of the hotline moving forward. 888-WR-BOLEN. We're also going to do some Darwin Awards there. By the way, speaking of Darwin Awards, I saw a motorcycle crash the other day. Sitting at a light, Jared. Mm-hmm. The cross light, it turns green. This is a one vehicle, 0 car motorcycle driver just casually wiping out on a green light. He was the first dude in line, total spaz. He was fine. He was just like really embarrassed and shook up so I can make fun of him. But motorcycle guy thinks you have to inherently think you have to think you're cool.
Yes.
Right? To be motorcycle guy. So he's sitting there at the light. He's like literally gassing himself up. And the light turns green, and he made it 8 feet before it just falls over on his side and skids 10 feet down the road. It was amazing. I was like, oh shit. It was one of those moments where we're just like, do we fucking get out? Help him? And then he just got up casually, walked off the side of the road and sat down and left his bike in the middle of the street.
No, he did not.
Yeah. I think he was kind of in shock. But dude, you went 8 feet. You're fine.
Yeah, move the bike.
Move your bike, you psycho.
I saw a motorcycle crash that I don't know how somebody didn't die. It was on South Congress.
Probably did.
No, the guy was. We looked it up after. He was fine. But this is insane. Okay, we're on South Congress, which is a very big pedestrian street on a weekend. I had friends in town. I usually don't go there unless people are in town. They want to see it. Huge tourist street.
Was this pre-Pandy?
Yeah, this is like 2 years ago.
Tight. Used to be real crowded.
Yeah, so we walk out of Allen's Boots, noted boot store.
Yeah, I have a pair of boots from there.
And
some Luke Casey's.
It smells so much like leather in there. If you've never smelled leather until you walk into Allen's
That's
Boots.
not even leather. That's a very specific, that's boot leather. That's it's a very specific smell. Yeah, it's fucking amazing, Jared. It's intoxicating. Let's go after this.
It smells so
Let's
fucking
just
good.
go get a whiff. Let's just go stand. Sirs, can we help you? Are you looking to try on a pair of... No, get the fuck out. We're just smelling. Get out. Oh, fuck, Jared. That's so good. Jared, let's go to the next aisle. Yeah, they're not going to like that.
So we go out and we hear the trademark sound of some asshole on a motorcycle going down a loud pedestrian street showing off, right?
Yeah.
So he's doing a wheelie, right?
Okay.
A lot of people do this in South Congress.
Meet Millie.
They'll either go down their Mustang and be really loud, or they'll go and do wheelies trying to show off because there's hundreds and hundreds of people walking down the street.
Yeah.
So my friend just happened to look. I usually wouldn't look at that shit because I don't want to give them the time of day because they're douchebags. But my friend looked and I was like, you know what? I'll look too. and I watch. He's doing a wheelie. He like lands, starts like doing the wobble. We're like, whoa. Turns sideways, falls off. And so him and his bike are skidding, going probably 40 miles an hour. The bike hits the curb, going 40 miles an hour, launches up into the air, into this construction zone, and slams into this massive piece of like scaffolding. And the dude had hit the curb too. And he did the thing. I was like, okay, that dude's dead. He like picks his head up, looks at his bike, and then just like starfishes on the ground. And I was like, okay, well, at least he's alive.
Damn.
Yeah, no deaths, though. I looked it up.
Yeah, I don't understand motorcycles, man. The risk reward is just not there for me. And it's not close. You're always one brain fart away from death. And you know how many brain farts I have in a day. You're also one other moron's brain fart away from death, even more importantly, right?
My biggest fear driving is that I'm going to hit a motorcyclist. And I
Whenever
look
I see
so
one, I'm like,
hard.
motherfucker. Like, sometimes I'll be speeding a little bit. Like, I'll be doing 45 and a 35, and I'm just like, yeah, breaking the law. And then I'll see a motorcyclist, and I'm like, son of a bitch. And I, like, drop it down to 30. Because I'm like, I don't want to fucking be around this guy.
I get so scared around when I'm driving around motorcyclists.
It's 99% of the time, it's a male. 99% of motorcyclists, I feel like. It's crazy. At least down here. I don't know what that's about.
But they do have a nice, cool wave to each other. They like stick their hand down low or whatever. You ever see that?
No.
Motorcyclists drive by each other.
That's a
There's a
gang
motorcycle wave. It's not a gang
It's a
thing.
gang sign in your area.
They're not like Sons of Anarchy. They're just one dude's on like a Harley, one dude's on like a Yamaha, but they
You know
still
how
do it.
nobody's been doing the Tesla wave with me?
Oh no!
So now
Yeah.
I've just started throwing signs at people. So
dab at them.
we'll see what happens.
Do
If
the-
I get shot, that's why.
Do the Tesla dab, or you just dab at them.
That's if you get honked at or flicked off or yelled at. You do the dab.
By the
Yeah.
way, have you thought of any more bits for your horn, for your Tesla horn?
No, not really. I'm trying to think of like when I go through the motorcycle argument in my head. It has to be that you just feel so free. Like
Yes.
such a total badass that it overwhelmingly breaks your decision maker in your brain or something. It's just like, I know this is probably going to, it's like with cigarettes. Like, I know this is going to kill me, but oh my God. I feel, what a rush. I feel so alive.
I think it's definitely an adrenaline like addiction thing.
If you need something to feel alive that could kill you, man, that's a conundrum. That's a real pickle.
Wow.
If you need something that could kill you to feel alive, which I often feel that way. I need to dance with death just to feel something.
Dance with the devil, like
In the
Immortal Technique.
moonlit light. Yeah. Bro,
Yeah.
that's a messed up
it's
song.
the most fucked up song I think ever
It's
written.
truly like yeah. I mean if you've never heard the song, what is it called?
Dance with the Devil by
Dance
Immortal
with the Devil
Technique.
by Immortal Technique. It's just like hard bars for a minute and a half, and then as you're listening, you're just like, wait.
It
What?
goes at a certain point.
By the end of the song, you're like, oh, dude, turn it off. Turn it off.
It's more than any song I've ever listened to. It goes from like, oh, this dude's spitting,
Yeah.
and then immediately it goes.
Ah! It's awful.
It goes like, wait, what? And then you're like, okay, he's still kind of spitting, and then
And
at the
you're
end,
like, damn, this is getting fucked up. And
Yeah.
then by the end, you're crying.
Yeah.
And you're like, the world is messed up, man. I don't want to go. Yeah. Yeah, we used to jam this at like house parties. What the hell was that?
yeah, hey, do you know what? People listen
No
to
wonder
this
none of
song,
us were getting laid.
and then tweet at us or DM us your reaction.
It would be like Yin Yang Twins, like Get Low, or Lil Jon and the East Side Boys, and then we'd throw on Immortal Technique, Dance with the Devil.
I once had a
just like,
friend.
it'd be like
his
six
name
white-
was William. Your name's
Dude,
William.
It would be like 6 white boys around the computer though, doing the fucking like lyrics and shit.
Wait, your name is William.
You my first name. So like half the white people on earth. And then all the girls were like, damn, that's so cool that these dudes know this song and can rap it. No, that never fucking happened.
I once had a friend. His name was William. His only concern was making $1 million.
Oh, dude,
all I
now
know.
I have to pull up the lyrics
That's
to
all I know.
Immortal Technique.
Literally, but is your only concern making $1 million?
No.
Okay, that's good.
No.
That's good. It's positive.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Yeah, his primary concern was making $1 million, being the illest hustler that the world ever seen. He used to fuck movie stars and sniff coke in his dreams, and you're like, oh shit, that was hard. A corrupted young mind at the age of 13, and you're like, wait, what? Never had a father, and his mom was a fiend. She put the pipe down, but for every year she was sober. Her son's heart simultaneously grew colder. He started hanging out, selling bags in the projects, checking the young chicks, looking for hit-and-run prospects. He was fascinated by material objects, but he understood money never bought respect. He built a reputation because he could hustle and steal, but got locked once and didn't hesitate to squeal, so criminals he chilled with didn't think he was real. You see, me and players like this have never been equal. I don't project my insecurities in other people. He fiended for props like addicts with pipes and needles, so he felt he had to prove to everyone he was evil. This goes forever, but like as it unfolds, again,
It's essentially a spoken word story.
yeah, but it's very rare that you listen to a rap song that has the ability to hold your attention
Yes.
narratively like that, where you're like, these are the events unfolding in my head, and this one does it so clearly
Yes.
that by the end of
Exactly.
the song, you're just sort of shook.
I don't
with how
know-
much of a story it was able to give you.
Yes. I go back and forth because I'm like, I can't listen to this song that much because it's so dark, but I think this is
It's
one of the
just so
best.
good, though.
It's one of the best like raps that I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those that sticks with you. You hear it once, and it's definitely not one you repeat like jam all the time, but definitely one that sticks with you forever when you hear it. Yeah,
Let us know your thoughts.
Speaking of hip hop, this weekend marked the 10-year anniversary of the release of one of the greatest hip hop albums of all time, a unicorn, like the quality of which will rarely be seen throughout human history when it comes to the talent of the two artists who collaborated on this project. Watch the Throne, which is pretty ironic considering we just got the tease for Watch the Throne 2. And it's just crazy to think about how long these two dudes and their relationship has been frayed now. It's one of those things that I really had a hard time with when it first kind of unfolded. I was like, damn, I thought these two dudes were like best friends forever. And the more I've grown up as a person, the more I've sort of come to understand how frays like that work, especially between adult men.
Yep.
And sometimes you're just in like a different place and shit, and life is crazy complicated, and it just goes how it goes. So, hoping for Watch the Throne 2, still jamming the first one with a pretty insane degree of regularity. And it's crazy. When that came out is when I was writing the silly-ass, now New York Times best-selling book that changed my Twitter bio forever, you know? It's really cool.
Fun fact. Another thing that happened this past weekend, an anniversary. Shouts to Ricky Prosper, our graphic designer, for the
Sup, Ricky?
for the little tip here. 17 years ago, yesterday, was the anniversary of the Dave Matthews Band tour bus poop incident.
Wow. 17 years ago yesterday. That's awesome. Dude, yesterday I was, speaking of yesterday, I was in the garage doing some ROSFit, and somebody drove by, and I had my AirPods in, and they were hanging out the passenger window, and they yelled something. I thought they yelled, "Fuck you!" So I tweeted about it, and I was like, somebody just drove by, fuck you'd me.
Yeah.
Then I got a DM. It turns out it was actually a listener, and they yelled ROSFit. So I read the DM, and I was like, at first I was like, ha ha, and then I was like, wait, what? Because I was in my garage doing a workout.
You're not
like,
safe anywhere.
This is my life. You can't just drive by and yell shit at me. Like, you can tweet a reply or whatever, but anyway, it just made me laugh, and that I assumed they yelled "fuck you" when it was actually words of support that at that point I needed. I was struggling in there, man. It's hot as shit.
It is so hot.
Whew. Speaking of Jay-Z and Kanye, somebody sent me a bootleg version of the upcoming Donda album, or as Jared puts it, Donda. And Jay-Z's verse on the Jail track, which is one of my favorite tracks on the album, the Guess Who's Going to Jail Tonight song, is how it will be known, I'm sure. Jay-Z famously recorded his verse the afternoon of the first listening party for Donda. And it is so bad. Like, I'm pretty sure he's hitting Kanye up right now. Like, hey, man, since you're still working on that, like, can I get another run at that verse? Art is never finished, et cetera, et cetera. Because it is not good.
Okay, you had it on earlier, and I was like, wait, is this Jay-Z? It is Jay-Z. Wait, I thought Ross originally said this was a good verse.
Yeah, I called
was
it.
like, this sucks.
I called it some of the most cohesive lyrics on the album, and it's not. It's fucking awful.
Bad, dude.
I don't know what, like, I get that it was a short-term turnaround thing, but, like, yeah, I feel like if Kanye gets to work on the album for 3 more weeks, can Hove get a shot at that verse one more time? Because this...
It ain't it.
He says, like, made in God's image, that's a selfie.
Yes.
And
that was a line.
Everybody's like, oh.
That was a line that made me wonder if it was Jay-Z or not.
Can we not do this? Damn. Hova. Anyway, that's all I have to say, Jared. That's it. That's the Monday show. Jared and I will be back on Wednesday for another episode of RBP, and of course Friday ad-free. But you don't have to wait. You don't. If this episode ends and you're like, but I need more now. I'm still at work or doing my workout or making love to my wife or doing a painting and I need more time. That's fine. Just take 30 seconds to go to patreon.com/Ross Bolen podcast now. Sign up and you get access to our immediate backlog and just keep listening to us. You don't have to stop. This doesn't have to stop. You can keep going. The happiness and the laughs, the tears and the poops, they can all keep going. We really will be back on Wednesday, though. And until we see you then, my friend, I don't know. I'm just going to try to make a rhyme. The only thing I can think of is sin, though. I don't want to make you go commit sins. Just be good. Be good to each other. Adios.